Hey everyone, it's William Christopher Ford from the Kaizen Dojo in Torrance, California. Now, like you, I've recently been forced to take my live in-person martial arts classes and take them to an online format. Some of you have been using Zoom or Facebook Live or pre-recorded video or some combination. I've been using primarily Zoom. That was new to me, and pre-recorded video. But I wanted to share my experiences with Zoom. It's been, I ain't gonna lie, it's been a little bit of trial and error, definitely a learning experience. But the good news is through just doing it and through the help of some of my kid students who've kind of helped me guide through the technological aspects of being on Zoom, I've come out with some, I think, helpful tips that will make your teaching experience be more engaging, exciting, fun, and an overall more positive experience, not only for your students, but for you. So that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about lighting and a couple of other technical things. So you gotta have enough light. Okay, if your students can't see you, they're not gonna stick around for the class. So make sure you don't have to bring in professional lighting, but you do have to have enough light. Number two is that if you don't have enough light, the video feed will be grainy, which does take away from the enjoyment of the class, which, you know, we don't want to give your students another reason to disengage. So lighting, very important. Number two is sound quality. You try to find a place where, given the circumstances of what we are doing right now, it's relatively quiet.
Okay, we're going to go evade, evade.
Now, in my studio, you know, sometimes you hear trucks coming in to the 99-cent store next door, and, you know, that can't be helped. But, you know, as best as possible, a room, a place where, you know, hopefully the noises will be minimal. The second thing is actually the microphone. Now, I don't have a professional microphone, but you can get one. You can get some really good microphones at a good price on Amazon and things like that. I'm looking into that myself. But right now, the camera and the camera from the computer as well as the mic is plenty fine for me. What I found though is that I tend to talk too loud when I get too close to the camera and the microphone, and it's like I'm yelling in your ear, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, so. I have to drop my voice to a more conversational tone as the closer I get to the camera, and then I get a little bit louder when I move back. If you're naturally soft-spoken and you're further away from the camera, your students may not be able to hear you, which gives them another reason to disengage. So that's number two. And then finally, as far as the technical aspects, we want to make sure that we have a good internet connection. If it's weak, the video feed will be choppy, it'll cut in and out, it'll freeze, and, you know, anybody who's watched a movie on Netflix and has had that happen to them knows how frustrating it is. Eventually we just grab a remote and throw it, and, you know, we do something else. So just be mindful of those three things: lighting, sound quality, and your internet connection. Okay, so real quickly about Zoom. The cool thing about it is that there is a free version, and you can get up to 40 minutes for your class, which is what I did in the beginning, and that was plenty fine. I highly recommend that once you get comfortable with it, that you do, it's about $15 a month for the paid version, and they don't have that 40-minute limit on there. But in the beginning, that was fine because I was still getting up the learning curve. The nice thing about Zoom also is that they do have video tutorials. There's a lot of support. They have increased their security protocols as well. And it's actually it's really, really pretty easy to do. And there's a lot of cool features on it. You can have what's called a speaker mode, where the person who is speaking is the person who actually is the biggest picture, and that appears on the screen. Or you can have what's a gallery mode, where you kind of see everybody who's in the class. It's kind of like that show, The Brady Bunch. So the kids kind of like that because they like being able to interact and see everybody in class. So that's kind of cool. What I do is that I also record the sessions. You can record them or not. And you can use those recorded sessions, you can upload them to the cloud or right to your computer, and you can use those sessions to observe your performance and improve. And you can also archive them and have them available to students who maybe didn't see that class. You know, you have an archive now. in your online library that can be accessed, and it's evergreen. You can use it for as long as you want to. And the other thing also is, I love Zoom because the students really feel like they've been using this in their schools, but now they get a chance to come in and see each other. So what I do is I mute everybody upon entry, and then right before I start the class, I actually unmute everybody. So I ask the kids, hey, do you guys have anything you want to share? And then during the class, I mute it. I take a break, maybe 25 minutes into it, and then I will unmute again, check in with everybody. It's kind of important to check in with everybody just to make sure everybody's doing good. And then at the end of class, I unmute again, and anybody have any last words, things they want to share, and they all say goodbye to you and all that. And then I do my virtual fist bump into the camera. So that's Zoom, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Okay, so when you actually start your class, I recommend having a lesson plan, just as a guideline. It doesn't have to be set in stone, but you have it there with you. And what I do is I put my lesson plan on a dry erase board, kind of like this one right here, and I have it off to the side, off camera, and nobody has to know. And I kind of refer to that, and at the same time, because of the nature of what we're doing, you have to be flexible. So sometimes things don't go according to plan. Given the circumstances that we're in, you got to roll with it. Okay, I think that's just the way it goes. Have fun, be patient. There's a lot of things going on with all of us. Sometimes you're going to see some kid's dog in the background. Don't get bent out of shape over that. I allow my students to be late too, because it's not their fault, it's not their parents' fault. Sometimes they're just got a lot of things going on, so they're late. I allow my students to have water with them, and they can sip it whenever they need to. They do wear their gis. If they have to go to the bathroom, they just go. Some people are stricter about that, but you know what? They're in their own house, so if they gotta go, they gotta go. What I do not allow is food during class, and I don't allow kids to sleep, like if they're tired and they go and they lie down on their couch. So I do have certain protocols in place, and at the same time, we have fun. Don't rant, don't be negative, don't be angry. Nobody's coming to your class for that. They are looking forward to your class, and they want you to be the best possible version of you. So be upbeat, be encouraging, make corrections if you need to, and be the best instructor that you know that you're going to be. Don't bring your politics into it. Don't bring your anger into it. This is something, again, that they're really looking forward to. So make it a great experience, and they'll keep coming back. You can play around with distance too. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go closer into the camera, and it kind of creates kind of like a close-up, and then I'll go back. I do things that are interactive, so I'll say, okay guys, I want you to duck my punch, and I'll swing at the camera, and then everybody's got to duck, and I'm gonna take this stick and I'm gonna swing for your feet, and everybody jumps at the same time. So that's a very interactive way that the kids enjoy. What I'll also do is I'll take a focus mitt, and I'll put it up, and it's like, okay guys, we're going to do 20 seconds of punching. And then while I've got the focus mitt up, and I'll say, okay, go, and I'll count down 20, 19, 18, and I'm hitting the back of the pad as they're punching. And so it's kind of like a video game. So you can get creative with things. It doesn't always have to be just a set routine. Sometimes it can be really, really interactive. You can play around with distance. If you saw my video that I shot, the promo, I'm going back, I'm going forward, so everybody can run towards the camera and then walk slowly back, things like that. You can practice going side to side, so you can really kind of play around with this medium a little bit and have it be maybe a little bit more cinematic or kind of like a video game at times. Sure, you're going to run your traditional class or however you want to do it, but don't be afraid to have fun and get a little bit creative with it. And to make it as interactive as possible. So that's one thing. Also, try not to be too critical or too analytical with one student. If you focus so much attention on making that form 100% correct, everybody else in the room they're going to tune out, and then They're not going to want to come back to your class. So just be mindful of that. Privates are a good place for you to really get the details down. You know, that's another service that you can offer your students. But in a group class, what I like to do is keep the energy up and keep it moving and keep it very positive. And then you can fix the details in the private. You know, sometimes when you're doing something in the camera, and let's say I move this arm, they may want to, maybe the right way to do it is, okay, you're supposed to look to your left and do this move. You may have to do it in mirror image, depending on how they see the screen. They may be seeing the screen differently than you see it, so you have to take that into account also. So again, you have to be very patient. Well, what I do is I actually turn my back. I turn my back to the camera so that, you know, let's say I'm doing something like a Pina and Shodan and I'm doing this, then they'll move the same way. If I'm doing it where technically I'm supposed to move to my left and I do this way and they're supposed to move to their left, but we're facing each other, I found that sometimes they get confused. So by turning around and facing the same way they are, it can be really helpful. Another helpful tip is when you say, okay, now move towards the camera, okay? Or now you're going to be moving away from the camera and you will not be able to see yourself for the next 3 moves. You can look back, but you know, if you give them that little instruction, I found that to be very helpful, particularly when you're working kata. Those are my my basic performance tips. Here's another tip. You want to make sure that you're looking at yourself, because if you're too close to the camera, your head will be cut off, or they might not be able to see your feet. So adjust your distance. You know, you might want to put some blue tape on the floor just so you have a place to go. You hit your mark. So be aware of that. You know, you want to make sure that, again, it is very important that the students can see you. Sometimes they want to see your face. At other times, it's important that they see your entire body so they can see the detail of everything. Okay? If you go down to the floor to stretch, what I'll do is I'll walk over to the camera, I'll flip the camera down a little bit so that they have that angle, and then when it's time to do something else, I'll go up and change it. Okay? So those are just some of the tips that I've come up with. I hope that it's helpful. I'm still learning myself, hopefully getting better at this, and I welcome any constructive, helpful hints that you guys, ideas that you guys might have for me as well, because I want to get better at this for my students and for myself, right? So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to someday meeting some of you in person. Stay strong, stay safe. We'll get through this. Take care.